Egmont. The House, in all likelihood, will rise this evening. The House met until 1 o'clock this morning dealing with Committee of the Whole on various bills, and so most of the work that remains after question period and motions for return and various other procedural motions will deal with bills at third reading. So hopefully royal assent will take place this evening around about 9:30. Failing that, the House should adjourn tomorrow.
Let us pray. As Canadians and as Albertans, we give thanks for the precious gifts of freedom and peace which we enjoy. As members of this Legislative Assembly, we rededicate ourselves to the valued traditions of parliamentary democracy as a means of serving both our province and our country. Amen.
Introduction of visitors. Presenting petitions.
Leader of the Opposition.
Sent 216 more names protesting recent cutbacks in seniors' benefits and urging the withdrawal of these harsh budget members. That brings the total up now to 43,233 people that spoke against these measures.
Fantastic.
Edmonton Goldbar, followed by Calgary Forest Lawn.
I beg leave to present two petitions this afternoon. The first one is 403 names requesting that the cuts to senior citizens funding be rescinded. The second petition, Mr. Speaker, is 463 names of Albertans requesting that the cuts to Alberta aids to daily living be rescinded.
Calgary Forest Lawn.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to present a petition from 270 students and teachers at the G.W. Skeen Elementary School in Calgary. They're concerned about the potential closing of the Alberta Wildlife Park.
Edmonton Jasper Place.
Speaker, I have a further petition from some 40 additional high school students in the City of Calgary in support of the Environmental Bill of Rights, which is currently before the legislature.
Westlock Sturgeon.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have two petitions to present. The first is from 85 farmers scattered around Alberta requesting that the Assembly urge the government to immediately join the Federal Net Income Stabilization Account, the NISA program. And a further 305 names on the seniors to add to what's already been filed in the House, petitioning the government to reinstate funding for senior services that were reduced in the 91-92 budget. All 305 are all from the Westlock Sturgeon constituency.
Reading and receiving petitions. Presenting reports by standing and special committees. Notices of motions.
Member for Edmonton Meadowlark.
Mr. Speaker, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 30, indicating that I plan to move to adjourn the ordinary business of the Assembly later on today after question period to discuss the urgent matter of the implications of the Department of Forestry, Lands and Wildlife's response to the expert review panel report on forest management in Alberta, which, Mr. Speaker, admits grave and substantive omissions in Alberta forestry policy, particularly the lack of a forest conservation strategy, thus raising serious concerns about the effect of current forestry development initiatives on forest ecosystems.
Introduction of bills.
The Attorney General.
Mr. Speaker, I request leave to introduce a bill being Miscellaneous Statutes Amendment Act 1991. This act traditionally has small corrections to a number of bills, omissions, spelling, and would like to recognize that this year it has a few more substantive items, and thank the members opposite for working with us to bring these forward. Thank you.
The Honorable the Attorney General has moved first reading to Bill 55, Miscellaneous Statutes Amendment Act 1991. Those in favor of first reading, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. Carried.
Bill number 55, Miscellaneous Statutes Amendment Act 1991, introduced by the Honorable Mr. Rostad. It's now read a first time.
Edmonton Goldbar, followed by Westlock Sturgeon.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have a number of bills to read in. I beg leave to introduce Bill 224, a children's rights bill. This legislation would ensure that the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child is encompassed in our provincial statutes.
The Honourable Member for Edmonton Goldbar has moved first reading to Bill 224, Children's Rights Bill. Those in favor of first reading, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. Carried.
Bill number 224, Children's Rights Bill, introduced by the Honourable Member Mrs. Hughes. It's now read a first time.
Westlock Sturgeon, followed by Edmonton Meadowlark.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I request leave to introduce a bill being the Native Peoples Representation Act. Mr. Speaker, this bill would create 3 new seats in the legislature to represent one of each of Treaties 6, 7, and 8 in Alberta.
The Honourable Member for Westlock Sturgeon has moved first reading of Bill 235, Native Peoples Representation Act. Those in favor of first reading, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. Carried.
Bill number 235, Native Peoples Representation Act, introduced by the Honourable Member Mr. Taylor. It's now read a first time.
Edmonton Meadowlark, followed by Edmonton Whitemud.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I request leave to introduce Bill number 247, being the Water Resources Management Services Administration Act. This bill, once it becomes an act, would remove all authority for the construction and management of irrigation works from Alberta Environment and place that responsibility with Alberta Public Works, thus ending the current conflict of interest found within Alberta Environment, where the same department is responsible for protecting the environment and for constructing and maintaining irrigation works that may cause serious changes to the environment.
The Honourable Member for Edmonton Whitemud has moved first reading of Bill 247, Water Resources Management Services Administration Act. Those members in favor of first reading, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. Carried.
Bill number 247, Water Resources Management Services Administration Act, introduced by the Honourable Member Mr. Mitchell. It's now read a first time.
Edmonton Whitemud is next.
Mr. Speaker, I request leave to introduce Bill 283, an act to amend the Alberta Income Tax Act. The intent of 283 is to provide for a renter's tax credit if the vacancy rate is below a figure of 2.5%.
The Honourable Member for Edmonton Whitemud has moved first reading to Bill 283, an act to amend the Alberta Income Tax Act. Those in favor of first reading, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. Motion carries.
Bill number 283, an act to amend the Alberta Income Tax Act, introduced by the Honourable Member Mr. Wickman. It's now read a first time.
Edmonton Goldbar, followed by someone on behalf of Edmonton Glengarry.
Mr. Speaker, I beg leave to introduce Bill 295, an act to include midwifery as a profession under the health disciplines. This legislation once again would ensure that midwifery is recognized as a legal profession.
The honourable member for Edmonton Goldbar has moved first reading to Bill 295, an act to include midwifery as a profession under the Health Disciplines Act. Those in favour of first reading, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. Carried.
Bill number 295, an act to include midwifery as a profession under the Health Disciplines Act, introduced by the honourable member, Mrs. Hughes, is now read a first time.
Edmonton Goldbar.
Mr. Speaker, on behalf of my colleague, the member for Edmonton Goldbar, I beg leave to introduce Bill 290. The member for Edmonton Glengarry. That's all right. Anyway, Mr. Speaker, this legislation will create a system of pay equity within the public service.
The honourable member for Edmonton Goldbar, on behalf of the member for Edmonton Glengarry, has moved first reading to Bill 298, Public Service Pay Equity Act. Those in favour of first reading, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. Carried.
Bill number 298, Public Service Pay Equity Act, introduced by the honourable member, Mrs. Hughes, is now read a first time.
306 and 308. Edmonton Whitemud.
Mr. Speaker, I request leave to introduce Bill number 308, an act to commit the government to a 5-year funding planning framework. The intent of Bill 308 is to provide for a framework by the provincial government when it comes to the implementation or announcement of grants for municipalities, for school boards, and for healthcare facilities.
The honourable member for Edmonton Whitemud has moved first reading to Bill 308, an act to commit the government to a 5-year funding planning framework. Those in favour of first reading, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. Carried, plus the vote in the gallery.
Bill number 308, an act to commit the government to a 5-year funding planning framework, introduced by the honourable member, Mr. Wickman, is now read a first time.
Seems to be it. That's all I have.
Okay.
306? 306? No. Thank you.
Tabling returns and reports.
Deputy Premier.
Mr. Speaker, I'm filing with the Assembly material requested during Committee of Supply of the Capital Fund estimates, the Heritage Fund estimates, and the regular estimates from various departments and ministers.
Forestry, Lands and Wildlife.
Mr. Speaker, I wish to file with the Assembly today the response to motion for return number 211. In addition to motion 211, I'm filing a further document outlining the seedling supply strategy for Alberta.
The Minister of Family and Social Services.
Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to table the 1989-1990 annual report for the Department of Family and Social Services. I'm also pleased to table the first annual report of the Children's Advocate for 1989-90 as well.
Minister of Health.
Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to table with the Assembly the annual report of the Alberta Association of Optometrists for the year ended December 31, 1989.
To the Honourable the Attorney General.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to table the 89-90 annual report for the Attorney General's Department.
Minister of Technology, Research and Telecommunications.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to file or reply to written question number 304.
Minister of Education.
Speaker, I wish to file the 85th annual report of the Department of Education for the year ended March 31, 1990.
Minister of Career Development and Employment, followed by the Minister of the Environment.
Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to file with Assembly a number of documents pertaining to employment. They are as follows. First, Employment Report, Labour Force Survey, May 1991. Second, Detailed Statistics, Labour Force Survey, Statistics Canada, May 1991. Third of the fourth is the employment growth in the service-producing sector for Alberta, And fourth and finally, the workforce requirements of major Alberta resource projects 1990 to 1999.
Minister of the Environment.
Speaker, I wish to file the response to motions for return 206 and 275.
Provincial Treasurer.
Mr. Speaker, I am filing today a series of documents. First of all, the Pension Board annual reports for the March 31st 90 year end, including Local Authorities Pension Plan Act, Members of the Legislative Assembly Pension Plan Act, Public Service Management Pension Plan Act, Public Service Pension Plan Act, Special Forces Pension Plan Act, Universities Academic Pension Plan Act, Provincial Judges and Masters and Chambers Act 1990 year end. I'm also filing, Mr. Speaker, the annual statement of Northwest Trust for the year ended December 31st, 1990, financial statements for 354713 Alberta, and the financial statements for Alberta Municipal Financial Corporation, March 31st, 1990.
Thank you. Edmonton Goldbar.
Mr. Speaker, I beg leave to file copies of 120 letters protesting the cuts to aids to daily living.
Additional? Clerk.
Introduction of special guests.
Member for Edmonton Mill Woods.
Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to introduce to you and to the other members of the Assembly this afternoon a group of dynamic young students from St. Clement's School in the constituency of Edmonton Mill Woods. They're here in the public gallery with their teachers, Mr. Leonard Tanis and Mr. Malcolm Gomez, and I ask them now to stand and receive our very warm welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's my pleasure to introduce to you and to other members of the Assembly 28 members of the Tofield Golden Club. They're visiting the legislature today and touring this beautiful public building in the grounds. They're seated in the members' gallery, and I'd like them to rise and receive the traditional warm welcome of members of the legislature.
Ministerial statements. Oral question period.
Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, to the Minister of Economic Development and Trade. Mr. Speaker, this session has seen the exposure of what is perhaps the worst record of financial mismanagement ever racked up by any government, anywhere, anytime. The worst in the country. The worst in North America, the worst in the world, maybe the universe, Mr. Speaker. But, Mr. Speaker, Albertans have seen company after company backstopped by the government go down the tube, taking hundreds and hundreds of millions of taxpayers' dollars with them. Mr. Speaker, as the session draws to a close, let's take a look at another record of mismanagement. Mr. Speaker, on August the 11th, 1987, the Getty government provided a company called Trade Tech Industries Limited with a $600,000 guarantee under the Expert Loan Guarantee Program, and then poured in another $150,000 by way of a direct loan, partially guaranteed under the Small Business Term Assistance Program. Mr. Speaker, on March the 22nd, this company was put into receivership, forcing the payout on these two government guarantees. My first question to the Minister is simply this. Given as a result of this liquidation, the assets have been sold at less than 20 cents on the dollar, will the Minister tell us how much this latest fiasco is going to cost the taxpayers of Alberta?
Mr. Speaker, contrary to what the honourable member says, and this just reinforces the inaccuracy that he has dealt in throughout this entire session, this economy is not the worst in the world. This record is not the worst in the world. In fact, just the opposite is true. It's the best. And I'm going to, it's the best. And we are the best at creating jobs. If one wants to look at the record of this government, we would go jobs, jobs, jobs. Because in the last 5 years, there's been some 107,000 jobs created in this province. In addition to that, we've indicated in a very open way that we have involved ourselves in creating employment in the province of Alberta. We're going to continue to create that employment, whether it be through our student loan guarantees or our involvement with the agricultural community through the Farm Credit Stability Program, of which some 60-odd thousand participants have been involved in that, plus our interest shielding with the small business community, or our support to municipalities. We're going to continue to do that. And if the Honourable Leader of the Opposition is suggesting that we should pull back so that we can go through the recessionary periods such as they are in the province of Ontario, we're not about to do that. We want to provide meaningful jobs for Albertans, and we're going to continue on with that positive action that we've experienced over the last number of years.
Give, spend to Tory friends, Mr. Speaker.
And lose.
Mr. Speaker, I notice he conveniently avoided telling us how much the latest fiasco is going to cost us, Mr. Speaker, but we can guess probably all of it, Mr. Speaker. But this goes on. It shows you about the close connection with Tory friends, Mr. Speaker. It's surprising for us to also learn that a man well connected with this government, Mr. Astley, was allowed to buy back the company for $200,000, even though there were at least 2 other bids that were higher. In other words, he owned the company, declared bankruptcy, and get it back again, Mr. Speaker. Shrewd business politics. My question to the minister is this. Given that the former owner of Trade Tech was able to get out from under a $1 million debt load by reincorporating a new company, which then brought back Trade Tech's assets for 20 cents on the dollar, has the minister determined why this was allowed to happen, even though there were 2 other bidders who offered to purchase a company for $60,000 and $100,000 more than that offer, Mr. Speaker?
Mr. Speaker, I'm amazed again at the Honourable Leader of the New Democratic Party's stupidity. Yeah. Because the truth of it is, the truth of it is, we have nothing to do as it relates to the receivership of these companies. In the event that they go into receivership, and if the Honourable Member is not aware of that, I'm totally surprised. Because in the event that they go into a receivership, the receiver or the receiver manager makes those decisions. We have no impact on those decisions whatsoever because we want to make sure that everything is above board, contrary to what the Honourable Member suggests.
Perhaps the Honourable Minister would be much more cautious and perhaps even withdraw the stupid comment, please.
Mr. Speaker, if the word is unparliamentary, I'm more than happy to withdraw it, sir.
Just easier for question period.
It's okay, Mr. Speaker. I took that as a compliment coming from that minister, Mr. Mr. Speaker, I didn't ask him to intervene. I asked him why that happened. Surely they must be curious when they've got so much money on the hook, Mr. Speaker. Doesn't it seem a little strange to him, Mr. Speaker? But
obviously not.
My final question on this matter, Mr. Speaker, because this happens time and time again. The minister gets up and rants and raves and tells about jobs. He never tells about how much money they're losing. But part of this could be solved if they would do this. And this is my question, Mr. Speaker. Will the minister finally agree to either insist that company owners who get taxpayers' dollars provide personal guarantees, as the banks and other places do, so that they put their assets on the line, or else finally admit that this loan guarantee program is a complete waste of taxpayers' dollars and get all the businesses subsidizing their corporate friends immediately? One or the other, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, I'm more than happy to reinforce what I've indicated to the Honourable Member before for either the 6th or 7th time, whereby the Export Loan Guarantee Program is based on the due diligence that the financial institutions themselves do. We, in turn, do a further analysis in conjunction with the Department of Treasury. The Honourable Member, for him to suggest that there is not a due diligence, or if there is not a thorough examination of this, is totally inaccurate, as he is consistently in this Legislative Assembly.
The second main question, Leader of the Opposition.
Well, Mr. Speaker, let's look at the other part of this session, from handing out money, holus bolus, to friends of the government, Mr. Speaker, to the seniors of this province who may not have a bank account to go as a result of this government's cutbacks to seniors, Mr. Speaker. I think this symbolizes it all about this government.
Sure does.
Mr. Speaker, today the government's long promised meeting with the seniors took place, and like most things with this government, it was all talk and very little action. The only concrete measure to come out of this meeting was a government promise to set up a task force, Mr. Speaker. I guess the Premier's Seniors Advisory Committee wasn't enough. A promise which totally misses the point of what the seniors of our province need and want. Mr. Speaker, they don't want more talk. As I say, they want the government to reverse its cuts.
Right,
Force them
that's right.
to pay for things like eyeglasses, dentures, canes, and medicine. And I want it flowing from the previous question, ask the Minister of Health, Mr. Speaker. Will the Minister explain to the thousands of seniors in our province how it is that her government has hundreds of millions of dollars to throw down the tube to failing companies run by its friends, and it slashes seniors' benefits that they've worked hard all their lives to achieve?
Mr. Speaker, I'm happy to have an opportunity to discuss the very excellent meeting that we held under the chairmanship of my colleague, the Associate Minister of Family and Social Services, with groups of seniors from across Alberta. And interestingly, they were far less cynical than the Leader of the Opposition about the continuity of care, the level of commitment, and the level of desire to find a solution to ensure that we have program sustainability into the 21st century than clearly the Leader of the Opposition is. Clearly, the issue of health and providing health for all Albertans was one of the issues that we discussed extensively at the meeting. I believe we have put in place and perhaps come through a bit of a bottleneck with respect to improving consultation with our seniors. We have a mechanism in place that will see a major consultation. If the Honourable Leader of the Opposition wishes to scoff at that, certainly he is free to do that. We happen to think it's a very important part of ensuring that our citizens are receiving the services that they desire.
Mr. Speaker, consultation after the fact. If you'd been consulting, you wouldn't have brought in these cutbacks to begin with, Mr. Speaker. And that's what the seniors want. They weren't running around the province saying, hey, let's have another meeting. Let's have another task force, Mr. Speaker. And they didn't say that after in the meeting. The minister's well aware of it. Right. That's my question, Mr. Speaker. Does the minister really believe that this is consultation, that this will really satisfy seniors? You know, that you're going to have another consultation with them down the way. Isn't it really true that what they still want is a reversal of those cutbacks, Mr. Speaker?
Mr. Speaker, what we discussed there today was certainly what we resolved as a meeting was an important step, and that is to get a concerted effort with respect to seniors and a spokesman group that satisfies seniors to look at the issues of the sustainability of our programs. Certainly those very capable citizens that we met with today are very much aware of the fact that our seniors population in this province over 65 age group will double in 30 years, and our over 80 age population will triple in that same period. Certainly they want to be involved in looking at the complement of programs that we provide to seniors and want to look at programs that fit the 1990s and instead of perhaps the 1970s and 80s when they were originally constructed and the myths that go along with that reality today.
Mr. Speaker, if you want sustainability of these programs, stop handing out millions of dollars to the corporate friends, Mr. Speaker. That'll have to give you some money. Now, Mr. Speaker, I want to ask the Minister, flowing from the secret report that was announced, that was discussed at Cabinet, and then quickly we had these cutbacks in there, Mr. Speaker. They start to talk about means testing, Mr. Speaker, income testing, and in all sorts of other areas. We saw step one. I want to ask the Minister this. It seems to me that this is part of the government's agenda, and if it isn't, will the Minister say here and now, right now, that that is the end of those cutbacks to seniors and there will be no income testing, Mr. Speaker? Will she give us that commitment now?
Just say yes. Well, Mr. Speaker, we did certainly discuss the issue of universality at our meeting. And certainly Alberta is one of the provinces, in fact, amongst all of the provinces, taking the lead with respect to the issue of maintaining the Canada Health Act and ensuring that we have the ability to offer that program in the future. Under Canada Health Act programs, basic medical services do not have any kind of income testing. And that principle of universality is one that applies on the Canada Health Act by law of the Parliament of Canada. As the honourable member may well be aware, although he forgets it all too frequently, we provide programs in Alberta which go far beyond the requirements of the Canada Health Act. And it is those programs that we are looking at to ensure, and we discussed this with the group of seniors that we met with for almost 3 hours today. We discussed the issue of what is universality in Alberta. Where are we going in these programs? Are we providing the right mix of programs for our seniors as we move into the 21st century? And it is in that regard that we now have in place a very fine, a very capable communication and consultation process that will serve not only the interests of the government, but obviously the interests of this province as we approach the 21st century.
Edmonton Meadowlark on behalf of the Liberal Party.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this provincial treasurer is quick and correct to criticize the new Democrat government in Ontario for having its $10 billion deficit on an annual budgeted expenditure of $52 billion. Mr. Speaker, believe it or not, a little sensitive about this.
The natives are restless.
These natives here are restless, as they would be in Ontario, I'm sure. This represents a deficit which is fully 18% of budgeted annual expenditures. Mr. Speaker, as appalling as this is, this treasurer's record is much, much worse. My first question, Mr. Speaker, is to the treasurer. How can this treasurer reconcile his justifiable, his legitimate criticism of Ontario's enormous 18% budgetary deficit with the fact that his own first budget deficit was fully 34% of annual expenditures. His own third budgetary deficit was fully 19% of annual expenditures, and his own fourth budgetary deficit was fully 21% of annual budgetary expenditures, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, it's been reported to me today that the House may in fact end its session. And since the member of the opposition, the member from the Liberal Party, just asked the question, have talked about the profile of this session, I think in the context of the budget, there are a couple of profiles that the people of Alberta will probably remember as a result of the long debate that we have had on the fiscal policies of this government. And that can be summarized very quickly. Here in Alberta, Mr. Speaker, we went through a period where we did have high deficits, which were driven by oil prices, which fell out of bed, as they say, and we put in place a plan, Mr. Speaker, and that plan, simply in consultation with the people of Alberta, took us from that very large deficit down to the one single thing that the people of Alberta asked for and got, a balanced budget. The difference between the province of Alberta and the good government that the people of Alberta get from this party is that we had a plan, Mr. Speaker. We were able to manage through. We set forth a course of action. We delivered on it, Mr. Speaker, and accordingly, we had the strongest economy, the lowest taxes of any province in Canada, and we're going to get on with buying down the debt. That's the plan, Mr. Speaker.
The treasurer is in good company when it comes to creating deficits, Mr. Speaker. He's right up there with the best, the socialists of Ontario. Mr. Speaker, the Ontario New Democratic government has... Stand up when you say that. Stand up when you say that. Very sensitive about that record. The Ontario New Democratic government has projected that it will incur an accumulated deficit over the next 4 years, Mr. Speaker, of no less than $35 billion. This represents 53% of annual expenditures. How can the treasurer reconcile his justifiable criticism of this huge 53% accumulated deficit with the fact that his own accumulated deficit over the last 5 years of his regime as treasurer is 78% of annual expenditures of this province using his own figures and 114% of annual expenditures of this province using the much more reliable figures from Moody's?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I don't think anybody in Alberta or in the Legislative Assembly or speaking for myself understood what the member was saying. And that's not unusual. That just isn't unusual, Mr. Speaker.
And while I have been criticizing the NDP Party of Ontario for their profligate spending, one should not forget the profligate spending of the Liberal Party when they, in fact, had control of the Government of Canada. That's right. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, I can say that Alberta is the only province in Canada with a balanced budget. And do you know what's happening? Investors worldwide understand that. Just investors worldwide understand, Mr. Speaker, that they have to be in a place where deficits, which are really deferred taxes, are not being accumulated at the rapid rate they are in Ontario, driven by Liberal Party policies in Ontario and compounded by Socialist Party policies as well. But the investors are coming here to Alberta, Mr. Speaker. They like the opportunity. They like the low tax regime. They like the economic strength of this province, Mr. Speaker, and that's why this province is going to rebound like nothing you've ever seen before, because it's here in Alberta that it's happening, Mr. Speaker, and the private sector is coming in droves to support the job.
Thank you. Thank you. Final, Edmonton Middle.
He talks and he talks, Mr. Speaker, but the facts never support the rhetoric. My next question is to the Deputy Premier. Mr. Speaker, at what point does this government admit to losing confidence in a treasurer who, on the one hand, criticizes the Ontario NDP so vehemently and so correctly for his overwhelming fiscal failure when, in fact, his own record has been so much worse?
What are you going to say, Jim?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I can assure the Assembly, the people of Alberta, that the government benches have full confidence in the provincial treasurer and the budget he brought forward this year. And all one has to do as a Canadian is compare what has taken place in other provinces and what has taken place in Ontario is not solely a factor attributable to the current New Democratic Party government. It was a combination of years of profligate spending on the part of the Liberal government of Ontario. And if anybody wants to look at the situation in our country, we know that the Liberals are the ones who led this country into an expanding federal deficit to the point that it has crippled the ability of the federal government to properly offer the services that are so desperately needed. Now they're paying out almost 40 cents on the dollar just to service the national debt. And that's the Liberal record, and the people of Alberta know that, and they do not want to follow that record in the provincial government, and that's why we have confidence in our provincial treasurer and the government of Alberta, I think. Thank you, Honourable Member. Calgary Glenmore.
Well, Mr. Speaker, members opposite always go on and on and on about doom and gloom. And a recent report out of Toronto, Ontario, indicates that people in Ontario are very envious of Alberta and the people who live here. A report by the Imperial Bank of Commerce, one of the largest financial institutes in North America, has indicated that this province has the best economic performance in Canada. It goes on to say that... I'm going to file it, right. And this report goes on to say that the province is expected to profit by increased oil and natural gas markets and meat processing and major growths in forestry and tourism. And this is an independent report, Mr. Speaker. However, in spite of this, we have had some job losses in Calgary. And I would like to ask the Minister of Economic Development and Trade if he could outline the strategies in place to offset these losses.
People of Alberta want to hear this.
Mr. Speaker, it was some weeks ago that I filed with the Legislative Assembly the strategy that we are following as it relates to our increased trade efforts, the value-added thrust that we have taken within the province of Alberta, our low taxation that the provincial treasurer just referred to, our loan guarantees, the Heritage Fund, and our infrastructure involvement to make sure that we have a proper communication transportation infrastructure in place in the province of Alberta. And it is paying substantial results. If we look at our economy, as the Honourable Member has just indicated, it's the strongest in Canada, if not all of North America. We've created some 107,000 jobs over the past 5 years. In addition to that, we've got some 20 billion worth of projects either on stream or taking place within the province of Alberta. And I wish to file, as was suggested with the Legislative Assembly, the executive summary by the Canadian Imperial Bank of Commerce, whereby they have indicated the Alberta economy will expand by a robust 3.7% next year, the best performance of any in Canada. Now this, Mr. Speaker, is much greater than the conservative estimate by our provincial treasurer, whereby he suggested the growth would be somewhat less, because we are conservatives and we always wish to project on a conservative basis.
Thank you. Supplementary counter.
Well, Mr. Speaker, also in Alberta, I think we should emphasize the fact that we have the lowest taxes and a lot to offer to our residents. Would the minister indicate if there are other financial independent groups who have reports outlining the same Alberta economy projection?
Mr. Speaker, this latest economic summary by the Canadian Imperial Bank of Commerce is just one of many that have suggested we are going to be the leading economic province in all of Canada. The Toronto Dominion Bank has said that we're going to have the best performing economy. The Royal Bank has also said that Alberta takes top marks in managing of their economy. The Conference Board also says we're going to take the lead, as does the Canadian Mortgage and Housing. Mr. Speaker, the economy is strong, and again this is underscored by the major growth opportunities for Alberta, which lie in forestry and tourism, major thrusts of our Premier and of this government. In addition to that, it goes on to state that another of Alberta's attractions is its low taxes. Wow. And the restraint that we have exercised in recent years as it relates to our own provincial government expenditures, which are also the lowest in the country, Mr. Speaker. We're proud of the economy, we're proud of our management role, and we're delighted that we can provide meaningful jobs for Albertans within the province of Alberta.
West Yellowhead, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, when Procter & Gamble bought the Grand Cache Forest Industry sawmill last year, it promised jobs for the next 100 years. In light of this assurance, the government wrote off its $4.5 million loan to the mill. Now we hear Procter & Gamble is laying off 40% of the sawmill's employees and intends to ship timber from the sawmill's forest leases in Grand Cache to its pulp plant in Grand Prairie. I'd like to ask the Minister of Forestry, Mr. Speaker, given this misrepresentation by the company, will the Minister now agree to the Assembly that he will recover the $4.5 million of taxpayers' money or prohibit Procter & Gamble from shipping timber from Grand Cache leases to its pulp mill in Grand Prairie?
Way to go, Millie Vanilli.
Mr. Speaker, over the course of since the start of the sawmill at Grand Cache, it has a difficult time being profitable. Under the former ownership of Fletcher Challenge, it was in great difficulty, and it had an option of either to close it down or to modernize. At that time, we convinced them that modernization was the right way to go, and in order to do that, we took preferred shares for some $4 to $5 million, which went into the modernization of that sawmill. Fletcher Challenge still wasn't able to make a profit at that mill and was intending to close it. Then Procter & Gamble came along, which is an excellent company, and decided that they, maybe with the mixture of wood and their other FMA, they could maybe make that mill operate. They did buy the mill, and in order to allow them to purchase it, we did write down our preferred shares. Since that time, Mr. Speaker, the mill has continued to lose money. And they have assessed the wood supply clearly, and I went and met with the head of Procter & Gamble, Mr. Ferrero, and found him an excellent person to talk to, and they agreed that they would try and keep the mill open on a longer basis, even though if it was on a one-shift basis. Now, I regret the jobs that are lost because of moving to a one-shift basis, but Mr. Speaker, I think the member for West Yellowhead should be happy that the mill is still open and that a company like Procter & Gamble is there.
Mr. Speaker, a number of layoff victims will not only lose their jobs, but their homes as well. These workers bought company houses CMHC would not insure and now face mortgage payments, no jobs, no insurance, and no market to sell their homes in Grand Cache's devastated economy. I point out that the government in this session voted against my bill to establish the Business Development Authority that would stimulate and strengthen the economy of Grand Cache.
Be ashamed.
I'd like to ask the Minister of Municipal Affairs, is the Minister willing to commit in this Assembly to assist those Albertans who stand to lose everything because Procter & Gamble now refuses to live up to their assurances of job security it made a year ago? And if not, what does he have to say to these people who would have been helped had this government passed Bill PR2?
Mr. Speaker, Procter & Gamble is as concerned about the employees as anyone is concerned, and they've come out with a package to be of help to them. I think the responsible positions taken by Procter & Gamble, we certainly have concern as a government with any time there's a loss of jobs and people have made plans, and we'll do all that we can to be helpful to Procter & Gamble and to try and assure that the future is bright for that.
Very briefly, with regards to Grand Cache, I want to indicate to the honourable member that the mechanisms are in place whereby economic development can be pursued by Grand Cache. And anything that we can do in terms of Department of Municipal Affairs as government to enhance and encourage that, we will certainly do that. The bill itself is not the key to their advancement economically. It was a mechanism, but there are other mechanisms similar and comparable that can achieve the very same ends, Mr. Speaker.
Westlock Sturgeon.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is to the Minister of Lotteries, Mr. Speaker, who can always find ingenious ways and divvying up the loot that he gets from the lottery funds amongst favored people in Alberta. The opposition has been quite successful in plugging off holes in the Community Enhancement Grant, Wild Rose Foundation, and forcing him to set out each month what he does spend. But lately he's come up with a new gimmick, Mr. Speaker, called the Agricultural Initiatives Program, which, for instance, in the last month has put about $250,000 in my constituency in order to try to get some poor old kamikaze Tory to run against me. But nevertheless, I appreciate the money. And what I'd like the minister to do, Mr. Speaker, is here and now stand in the House and promise that from now on, every grant that he puts out through the Agricultural Initiatives Program will be listed each month in a press release. Hear, hear.
Mr. Speaker, the member of Westlock Sturgeon has talked about one of the many programs that are funded under the Alberta Lottery Fund. And of course, there is a reporting that is provided to the various groupings and the agencies that do receive dollars from the Lottery Fund. The Alberta Foundation for Performing Arts, as an example, provides an annual report. The Alberta Art Foundation provides an annual report. Grants provided under the Community Facility Enhancement Program, there's been an annual report. We also provide a monthly update with respect to these things. Mr. Speaker, the Agricultural Initiatives Program is just one of some 20 different programs that are provided with respect to lottery funds. And the Minister of Lotteries works in consultation with the two Ministers of Agriculture, the Minister of Agriculture and the Associate Minister of Agriculture. And we have provided press releases with respect to all of these projects. And if the Honourable Member of Westlock Sturgeon thinks it's useful, in addition to a regular press release that would go with each and every one of these agricultural initiative projects, for us to publish one additional piece of paper on a monthly basis, we'd be very happy to take that under consideration.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm glad to hear that because I checked the last news release that just went out in town that he gave the money out. He made sure the news release went nowhere else, Mr. Speaker. Well, in view of this new leakage from the lottery funds, isn't it nothing more than a method by the minister to try to shore up and buy out the rural vote while the city vote sits there slumbering peacefully under these grants called the Agricultural Initiatives Programs? Hear, hear.
Mr. Speaker, it's really unfortunate, and I think it's a sad reflection, Mr. Speaker. Under the lottery fund, Mr. Speaker, massive amounts of dollars are provided to a number of organizations within the cities. As an example, the Calgary Exhibition and Stampede gets $4,750,000 a year. Edmonton Northland gets an annual grant of $5 million a year, Mr. Speaker. The total Agricultural Initiatives Program is $2,648,000 for all of the agricultural societies in the province of Alberta. Now, if two agricultural societies, one in Edmonton and one in Calgary, each get twice as much for themselves as all of the 300 plus agricultural societies in rural Alberta get, how can the member from West Loch Sturgeon say that this is fair? In fact, Mr. Speaker, if there is any bias at all, the bias is provided to agricultural societies in Edmonton and Calgary, and that's really an unfortunate assessment, and downright unfair and untrue, Mr. Speaker.
Edmonton Highlands.
Mr. Speaker, if there is any virtue at all that could be applied to this Conservative government, and I do say if, it would be one of consistency, Mr. Speaker. They consistently take from the people who can't afford to pay anymore and give to their corporate friends in the bailout world to help out the buddies that keep these guys in government. That's the consistency, Mr. Speaker. And one perfect example of this is a 12-year review of the funding that's gone to universities, colleges, and technical institutions. Universities alone, in constant constant dollars over that period, the funding on a per-student basis has gone from $5,534 down to $4,431 per full-time equivalent student. No wonder the University of Alberta is about to declare a financial emergency. My question to the Minister of Advanced Education is this. In light of the fact that the university is almost certainly going to declare themselves in a situation of financial emergency and start laying off key people, and who knows how many more people after they get through the non-academic staff, will the minister agree to find some extra money to provide to all the universities and colleges so that they can serve the students who are rightfully lined up at the doors waiting for education?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I think most people would agree upon examination, if one looks at the allocation of money, and I would point out that the quality of education is not always in direct proportion to funds, but we do now fund the highest per capita in Canada to our post-secondary system, some 28 publicly funded institutions, Mr. Speaker, so this government has nothing to apologize for. This government has taken the message of the people to be fiscally responsible, balance the budget, and surely everybody has to play a role in that game. And I would simply reiterate, this government has nothing to apologize for as long as we are amongst the leaders in Canada in terms of post-secondary funding, and we are, Mr. Speaker, and I will continue to set as a top priority in my portfolio the benefits to the students of this province.
Mr. Speaker, methinks he doesn't defend very well, because most of the indicators will prove categorically that the funding on almost any basis you want to look at has declined since 1979. My supplementary question would be to the Deputy Premier, and it's this. Mr. Speaker, as the universities, colleges, and technical institutions have to declare financial emergencies and start laying off people, I'd like a commitment from the Deputy Premier that if this happens over the course of the summer and they've got to start laying people off, will this minister agree to recalling the House in the fall and having a look at a new budget that will give enough money to these institutions so that they can train the young people so they can work in the workforce, Mr. Speaker?
Mr. Speaker, it would be extremely unlikely that the House would be recalled to present a new budget. First of all, Mr. Speaker, we have just gone through the process of passing the balanced budget through the Assembly. And, Mr. Speaker, the Minister has replied that there is adequate funding and high level of funding for our post-secondary system within this province. I know that to be the case, and I know that the interests of the post-secondary system and its students as well as its personnel are very high in the consideration of the Minister and the government. It would be very unlikely that the new budget would be introduced, particularly for that particular topic. Edmonton Belmont, followed by Edmonton Whiteman. They weren't talking.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, my question is to the Minister of Labour. It deals with a matter that took place on June the 8th, where 30 workers at the Blue Ridge Lumber Mill in Whitecourt were laid off. I realize that times are particularly tough, Mr. Speaker. They've joined 116,000 other unemployed Albertans, but there's something particularly rotten about this particular layoff. Workers with up to 8 years seniority were canned due to supposedly a lack of work, and yet they were immediately replaced by students who were hired at 33% less wages and no benefits. Now, given that these workers have not had any assistance from the government or their member of the legislature, I would like to ask the Minister of Labour, would she outline to the Assembly what plans she has that would help get these workers back to their jobs at Blue Ridge Lumber Mill?
Mr. Speaker, any adjustment programs are dealt with by our Minister for Career Development and Employment, and we nevertheless our portfolios and our staff and the Minister and I cooperate very closely in dealing with the structural changes that are occurring as we undergo a transition to the new economy. If the individuals that the member opposite is would like to come in and discuss those sorts of opportunities, I certainly would welcome them.
Transition to a new economy, Mr. Speaker, it just goes to show that the Employment Standards Code does not protect workers in Alberta. And I would suggest that this minister is just sitting back and prepared to let this happen. Now, Mr. Speaker, there's another memo that's circulating around Blue Ridge Lumber Mill that shows that there's another series of people that are about to be laid off soon. Would you believe it, Mr. Speaker, that these people that are about to be laid off will soon have their pensions vested? So what the company is hoping to do is lay off these workers in the hope to save some dollars. Now, I would ask the minister if she was prepared to use her good offices to contact the company and tell them how appalled she is with this plan of action, in the hope that the second layer of job terminations will not take place. Is she prepared to do that?
That's a good plan.
Mr. Speaker, the member opposite is raising a speculative question because the event has not occurred, and there is perhaps more to be discussed in laying the groundwork in what he is raising here, which are fears. And again, let me say, I would be more than happy if the workers wish to come in and use our department's services and those of the Department of Career Development and Employment. That's what we're here for.
Edmonton Wyvant.
Mr. Speaker, the minister responsible for lotteries and now responsible for gambling has stated that the video electronic machines will be tested at the Northlands exhibition and the Calgary Stampede, and that further on, possibly, machines may be looked at in bars and such. In the Hansard of May the 23rd, in fact, he says, we will proceed with a pilot project later this summer that will ask for public reaction with respect to this concept, will evaluate the social impact, and so on and so forth. Will the minister inform this House as to whether there were already discussions at that time or within a few days after that date of May the 23rd with pubs or licensed premises as to their interest in taking these machines if the province is to proceed in this direction?
Mr. Speaker, I first introduced this to a speech that I gave at I think it was the Tourism Association of Alberta at an annual convention that was held in Kananaskis country several months ago, and I can't recall if the date was the date that the honourable member talked about, but certainly over the last several months there has been discussion, and I certainly have initiated that discussion with a variety of groups, and we will be proceeding this summer in association with the Western Canada Lotteries Corporation, Alberta Lotteries. We've had discussions with the Alberta Hotel Association and a variety of other groups within the province of Alberta, and we will be implementing a test program that will look at a number of questions, including public reaction, social impact, operational issues, consumer preference, and the potential for profit. And we'll be beginning the pilot project with venues at the Calgary Stampede, then Edmonton Northlands, and then probably upwards of 30 other locations throughout the province of Alberta. And our current plans are that the project will probably go until about October or November 1991.
There's no end to our greed.
Mr. Speaker, the point I'm trying to make is let's lay our cards on the table. If it's our intent to put these machines throughout the pubs in Alberta, the taverns in Alberta, let's say so and not play this little game, we're going to test it here, test it there. Is the minister prepared to table in this House his overall vision or his overall master plan as to where he sees this whole concept of gambling in Alberta heading towards? There has been speculation that these machines could generate as much as $100 million a year in additional revenues to the minister to control in his fashion.
Mr. Speaker, I would only wish that the privilege given to me as elected representative in the province of Alberta would allow me to implement such a scheme that would see me reap $100 million a year, but such is not the case. The purpose, Mr. Speaker, of the pilot project is to, in fact, assess whether or not there is interest in the province of Alberta for the video lottery terminals being in place throughout this province. And I repeat, Mr. Speaker, the plan that we have is to test, is to ask the question, is there an interest? If so, what would the social impact be? What would be the operational issues? What would be customer preference? What would be profit potential? Only at the conclusion of a pilot project, when we have ascertained and asked the question of Albertans and found out what Albertans' response are, would in fact we be in a position to make a recommendation. Mr. Speaker, it would be rather I think unfortunate if a minister of the Crown were to adopt the Liberal philosophy is that you stand up and tell everybody what they want and then go and do it, and irrespective of what they say after you do it, that's not the way progressive Conservatives operate. We ask questions, what do you think? We put in place a possibility for people to respond to us. We consult with the people, Mr. Speaker. We work with the people. We ask them for their views. And after we have all this incredible basket of information, then in essence we are in a good position to make a decision.
Thank you. Edmonton Calder.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, when the Minister of Family and Social Services announced his social reforms last November, contracts were given to private businesses to deliver the training programs. At the same time, employment and training programs within the government departments were being cut. While some clients in these training programs may be benefiting, others are not. For example, one business in Calgary required clients to do an exercise that I know was used in a grade 3 classroom, and another exercise teaches clients how to use the yellow pages. So to the Minister, given that these exercises are inappropriate and humiliating for many of the clients, how does the Minister justify paying taxpayers' money to private sector businesses for these training programs that are not flexible and that are not sensitive to the client's needs?
Well, Mr. Speaker, the Minister for Career Development and Employment might very well want to supplement my answer. I can only say that based on the preliminary responses that I've received and the preliminary information that I've received, I noted in Edmonton, just recently they pointed out that there was a 55% success rate of our clients receiving employment at the conclusion of a 6-week course. Mr. Speaker, obviously I would have been happier if it was 100%. But the fact that 55% of those individuals that are taking some additional training being provided by this government are able to get meaningful employment, I think is a big step in the right direction, Mr. Speaker.
Member, and I would not wish to correct the Minister of Career or Minister of Family and Social Services, but I'm sure he would like to know that the current stats do indicate that the figures are 85% success rate. As I'd indicated earlier to the Assembly, it was too early to tell at that specific time. Current figures released, 85% success rate.
Mr. Speaker, surely a trained journeyman tradesperson does not have to learn how to use the yellow pages. And my point is that these programs are not meeting all of the needs for some of the clients. And as a result, their benefits are being terminated. And I would ask the Minister, will the Minister of Family and Social Services agree to at least conduct a thorough review of the effectiveness and appropriateness of these current training programs and make the findings public?
Mr. Speaker, we're constantly trying to improve upon and build upon our social programs here in the province of Alberta. We've just, as the member pointed out, announced some very substantive changes here in the Department of Family and Social Services. The new Supports for Independence program is a whole new direction for us as a department, Mr. Speaker. I can say that as a result of these changes, we are able to take workers and have them spend considerably more time with clients to make sure that we are establishing appropriate plans for them, appropriate models for them, appropriate goals for them. Mr. Speaker, if there are instances where perhaps we're somewhat off the mark, and I suspect that's a possibility, I can assure the member that we'll continue to strive to do better, that our intent isn't to punish people on social allowance. Our intent, Mr. Speaker, is to work very closely with them to help them get back into the mainstream, to help them become meaningfully employed citizens, to help them become productive Albertans once again, because we believe, Mr. Speaker, that that's what they want, and we believe by bringing forward the programs that we have, by working with them, by working together, we'll be able to reach that objective together.
Okay. There are one or two procedural items. First, might we have unanimous consent to revert to returns and tablings? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Minister of Culture, Multiculturalism.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you to the members of the Assembly for their indulgence. I have the annual report of the Alberta Foundation for the Performing Arts 8990.
Thank you. Member for Edmonton Jasper, please, briefly.
Mr. Speaker, on a very brief point of order, on April 23rd of this year, I moved a motion for return requesting the tabling of correspondence between the government and the Professional Outfitters Association of Alberta. In the course of debating this motion, I made certain remarks related to the relationship between the government and certain members of that association. It's come to my attention that a third party, a registered procedural parliamentarian by the name of Mrs. Claudia Belcher, construed my remarks as suggesting that she is both partisan and a party to a conspiracy with the government. Mrs. Belcher is not known to me, but I wish to make it clear to the Assembly and to Mrs. Belcher that I intended to put no such suggestion forward. My comments were intended to relate strictly to a relationship between the government and certain members of the Professional Outfitters Association of Alberta, which may have become clear if the material requested was tabled. But for this reason, I apologize to Mrs. Belcher for any distress she may have suffered as a result of this misunderstanding.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Edmonton Meadowlark, with regard to urgency understanding Order 30, under 30.
Order 30. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I will not read the motion once again. I read it into the record at the outset of question period. I will, however, argue for the urgency that this motion be debated. The urgency arises from this important contradiction, a contradiction, Mr. Speaker, that has been pointed out, argued, clarified, specified in a document, this document prepared by the government itself, by the Department of Forest Lands and Wildlife. The document I'm referring to, Mr. Speaker, is the Minister's, the Forestry, Lands and Wildlife, response to the Danzig Committee review of forest management policy in Alberta. Danzig reported about a year ago. It's taken a year for us to see this document. What this document underlines, Mr. Speaker, is this important contradiction. On the one hand, this government has launched itself on an unprecedented series of northern pulp mill developments and has allocated 160,000 square kilometers of forested lands, nearly a quarter of this province, to companies to log. On the other hand, the government admits in this document, Mr. Speaker, released this week, released late last week, that it does not have the policy and the budgetary infrastructure in place to support its claims that it will be able to protect our forests and that somehow this kind of northern pulp mill development will be sustainable, whatever the government means by that. I use, in arguing for its urgency, the urgency of this debate, Mr. Speaker, the government's own statements as follows. The government agrees with the need for more staff and resources in response to the expansion of the forest industry, and that more staff and funding are needed in forestry, fish, and wildlife areas. The government states the timely completion of the Alberta Conservation Strategy is supported. The need for a consistent overall departmental policy and for more detailed sector policies is also recognized and accepted. The government states that with the development of a policy for forests, a forest conservation strategy, they will place this on a priority basis. The government states, Mr. Speaker, an overall strategy for the conservation and sustainable use of resources is required. They don't have one, Mr. Speaker. They understand that this task will be completed by the Alberta Sustainable Development Strategy, by the new roundtable on the environment and economy. They don't know that, Mr. Speaker. I can go on, but the urgency comes from these clear admissions, Mr. Speaker. They need more staff and resources in forestry, fish, and wildlife. They need to complete the Alberta Conservation Strategy. They need consistent overall departmental policy and detailed sector policies. They need a forest conservation strategy. They need a policy for preservation of old-growth forests. They lack a fish and wildlife inventory, which is an impediment to effective integration. The government has said, Mr. Speaker, that this forestry development policy is sustainable. To ensure that, it must have a forestry management policy that is effective and responsible in place. It admits in this document, Mr. Speaker, that it does not have such a policy. In fact, element after element after element of such a policy, it admits, do not exist, are not in place in this government. We have a situation where pulp mill development is proceeding, logging development is proceeding on unprecedented levels and scales in this province. It will continue to do so over the next year, Mr. Speaker, without the policy infrastructure that is necessary, without the policy infrastructure that the government itself admits it hasn't got. We can't wait till next year to come back to this legislature to debate this particular policy issue, Mr. Speaker. It must be debated today before we leave this legislature.
Government House Leader. Mr. Speaker, this is not, in my submission, a matter which meets the test of Standing Order 30, subsection 7, subsection A. It says the matter proposed for discussion must relate to a genuine emergency, calling for immediate and urgent consideration. What we are asked to consider here are implications of a government's department's response to a report and concerns about the effect of current forestry development initiatives on forest ecosystems. Mr. Speaker, this is a matter which, while important, is certainly not one which is a genuine emergency. And I would cite Beauchesne, 389 and 390, where urgency within this rule does not apply to the matter itself, means urgency of debate, when the ordinary opportunities and so on. 389, however, says the specific and important matter requiring urgent consideration must be so pressing the public interest will suffer it is not given immediate attention. Mr. Speaker, the development of forest policy and a report for considering the implications of that clearly do not fall within those heads. Furthermore, I would cite section 394 of Beauchesne, where it states that the general question of the maladministration of the department cannot be considered for debate under this standing order. I would suggest that really what this motion is getting to is a suggestion that the department is not being properly administered in the development of its policies. And Mr. Speaker, clearly this does not fall within the Standing Order 30 rules, the Beauchesne, or the traditions of this Assembly. Edmonton Jasper Place.
Mr. Speaker, speaking briefly to the urgency of debate, I would have to say there's no doubt whatsoever that the question of forest policy in Alberta and forestry development is a matter which is deeply bound up with the public interest, and there is a timeliness related to it. I think a case could be made that the official opposition has been arguing that the public interest will suffer from the very first day of this session if we do not address this issue during this session. The first resolution debated in this Assembly on March the 19th called for, in substance, the same matter that the member for Edmonton Meadowlark is calling for today, which was followed up by a number of private members' bills and an extensive policy document, all pointed toward the direction that this province very urgently needs a forest policy which deals with the ecological concern mentioned in the letter written by the member for Edmonton Meadowlark, but in addition to related aspects dealing with employment and with financial returns to the province of Alberta. And I think we're at a crossroads indicated perhaps by the timing of the government response to the Danzig report, that there is a recognition today on all sides of the Assembly, including the Liberal Party, that we really need to act urgently on this matter. And I would say, hallelujah, brother, I'm glad you joined in. So hopefully we will be able to debate this matter this afternoon because of many urgent forestry issues. Two members of the official opposition raised forestry issues in question period today. I think the public interest will suffer if it's not debated today on this day, which appears to be the last day of the session. So I urge the Speaker to give favorable consideration on the matter of urgency.
Having examined the matter since earlier this morning, and having listened carefully to the comments from the three members who participated with regard to the Standing Order 30, nevertheless, the Chair believes that the urgency of debate has not been convincing argument and the matter shall not proceed. Orders of the day.
Seek unanimous leave of the Assembly to deal